The mindset behind power is timeless. The principles taught by Niccolò Machiavelli in The Prince and refined for the modern world by Robert Greene in the 48 Laws of Power reveal how influence truly works. Master these ideas, apply them wisely, and you'll understand the hidden rules shaping leadership, status, and human behavior. If you want more deep breakdowns like this, subscribe to the channel and join a community that studies power, psychology, and strategy. 1. Never outshine the master. This principle, explored in the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene and echoed centuries earlier by Niccolò Machiavelli in The Prince, is about understanding ego, hierarchy, and human insecurity. Power is rarely lost through incompetence alone, it is often lost through wounded pride. People in positions of authority are highly sensitive to anything that threatens their status. When a subordinate appears too brilliant, too confident, or too publicly praised, leaders may interpret talent as rivalry. Even if your intentions are pure, perception shapes reaction. Making a superior feel overshadowed can quietly turn them into an obstacle rather than an ally. True influence comes from strategic restraint. When working under someone, frame your strengths in ways that elevate them. Let your excellence look like loyalty. Share credit generously. Publicly acknowledge their leadership, guidance, and vision. Ask for their input so they feel involved in your success. This does not mean shrinking yourself or denying your ability. It means presenting your ability in a way that strengthens the hierarchy instead of challenging it. When leaders feel secure, they reward competence. When they feel threatened, they suppress it. Human psychology is deeply tied to status. A superior who feels replaced will defend their position. A superior who feels respected will protect you. By allowing them to shine, you create emotional safety. Emotional safety builds trust. Trust builds access. Access creates opportunity. Many talented people sabotage their rise because they focus only on performance while ignoring perception. Skill earns attention, but emotional intelligence earns protection. Those who rise fastest are not always the most gifted, they are the most socially aware. This law is especially important in workplaces, politics, creative industries, and mentorship structures. Imagine presenting an idea. Instead of saying, "Here's a better way. Try." Your strategy inspired this extension. The outcome is the same, but the emotional impact is different. One threatens authority. The other reinforces it. The smartest operators understand that influence flows upward by making others feel powerful. When your presence makes leaders feel wiser and more capable, they attach themselves to you. Your growth becomes comfortable for them. There is also a visibility balance to maintain. If you hide your talent completely, you become invisible. If you display it aggressively, you become a threat. The goal is calibrated brilliance. Deliver excellent results, but avoid theatrical self-praise. Let recognition come from others. Quiet competence feels safe. Loud superiority feels dangerous. The more secure people feel around you, the more they advocate for you in rooms you are not in. Power often moves through recommendation, not self-promotion. History repeatedly shows this dynamic. Advisors who flattered rulers survived. Generals who claimed too much glory faced suspicion. Courtiers who mastered humility gained influence behind the scenes. The pattern remains unchanged in modern organizations. Executives promote team players who make leadership look good. They distance themselves from individuals who compete for the spotlight. Understanding this unwritten rule protects your progress and extends your reach. This principle is not about manipulation through dishonesty. It is about social calibration. Respect hierarchy. Understand emotional dynamics. Present your strengths with awareness. You can be exceptional without triggering defensive instincts. Confidence does not require dominance displays. Real power is subtle. It moves quietly, builds alliances, and expands influence without friction. Mastering this law transforms how others respond to you. Doors open more easily. Mentors invest more willingly. Leaders trust you with responsibility. Your reputation becomes one of reliability and loyalty rather than ambition and rivalry. Over time, those above you may even step aside voluntarily, recommending you as their successor because you never made them feel diminished. 2. Never place blind trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies wisely. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene challenges a comforting myth that friendship automatically equals loyalty. In reality, human relationships are influenced by envy, competition, ego, and self-interest. Friends often begin as equals. They know your past, your weaknesses, your failures, and your ambitions. When you begin to rise, that shared history can quietly turn into comparison. Comparison breeds jealousy. Jealousy breeds resentment. And resentment, when hidden behind smiles, becomes dangerous because you don't see it coming. A friend who feels left behind may celebrate you publicly while doubting you privately. They may discourage your bold moves, question your decisions, or subtly undermine your confidence. Not always out of evil intent, but out of emotional discomfort. Your progress reminds them of their stagnation. Your discipline exposes their excuses. Your wins highlight their losses. Over time, this tension can weaken loyalty. Because you trust them, you lower your guard. And that is where risk grows. An enemy, however, is different. Their position is clear. There is no illusion of loyalty. No emotional expectations. No hidden comparisons. When a former rival chooses to work with you, the alliance is often practical and performance-based. They have something to prove. They want redemption, position, or opportunity. Their motivation is visible. Because they understand conflict, they value stability. Because they've opposed you before, they respect your strength. This creates a relationship built on mutual interest rather than emotional attachment. Strategic thinkers do not choose allies based on comfort. They choose based on reliability and alignment of goals. A disciplined former opponent may work harder than a comfortable friend. A professional partnership often outperforms a sentimental bond. This does not mean rejecting friendships or living in suspicion. It means separating emotion from strategy. Trust should be earned through consistent action, not assumed through familiarity. There is also a psychological advantage. When you treat a former enemy with fairness and opportunity, you create powerful loyalty. People remember who gave them a second chance. Respect transforms rivalry into respect-based alliance. And respect-based alliances tend to be stable because they are built on conscious choice rather than emotional habit. History and modern leadership repeatedly reflect this truth. Political coalitions, corporate mergers, and competitive industries often see rivals become powerful partners. Shared goals neutralize past tension. Meanwhile, internal conflicts among friends and close allies frequently cause deeper damage because betrayal from trust cuts deeper than opposition from rivalry. The key is awareness. Observe behavior patterns. Notice who supports your growth without discomfort. Notice who discourages risk when opportunity appears. Notice who competes with you silently. Loyalty is revealed through consistent support, honest feedback, and alignment with your long-term vision. Power grows when your circle is built on strength, competence, and mutual benefit. Choose allies who respect your journey, not those who feel threatened by it. Evaluate trust through evidence, not emotion. Build partnerships that move you forward. 3. Conceal your intentions. This principle, emphasized in the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene and reflected in the strategic thinking of Niccolò Machiavelli in The Prince, is rooted in a simple truth: people resist what they can see coming. The moment others fully understand your plans, they begin forming opinions, defenses, and obstacles. Some will doubt you. Some will compete with you. Some will try to slow you down. Visibility invites interference. Silence, on the other hand, creates space to move freely. When your intentions are unclear, people cannot easily oppose you because they do not know what to resist. Mystery shifts attention away from your destination and keeps focus on your present actions. This gives you strategic flexibility. You can adjust direction, refine plans, and build momentum without external pressure or premature judgment. Talking too much about future plans creates emotional leakage. Excitement makes people announce goals before they are ready. But public plans attract public scrutiny. The more people know, the more opinions you receive. Opinions dilute focus. Doubt spreads. Energy gets wasted explaining instead of executing. Quiet progress protects momentum. There is also a psychological layer. When people cannot fully read you, they pay closer attention. Curiosity increases your perceived depth. Reserved communication signals confidence. You appear deliberate rather than impulsive. Controlled silence suggests discipline and intelligence. People respect what they don't fully understand. Concealing intentions does not mean lying or being deceptive in harmful ways. It means sharing information strategically. Reveal what is necessary, when it is necessary, to the people who truly need to know. Not everyone deserves access to your vision. Not everyone is aligned with your goals. Oversharing gives unnecessary access to your strategy. In professional settings, premature disclosure can cost opportunities. Announcing a project too early invites competition. Revealing negotiation limits weakens your position. Sharing ambitions with the wrong audience exposes you to sabotage or discouragement. Strategic restraint keeps leverage in your hands. Socially, controlled communication protects your emotional energy. When every plan is public, every delay requires explanation. Every setback becomes performance. Privacy allows growth without pressure. You develop quietly and present results confidently. Mystery also enhances presence. Leaders who speak with intention rather than impulse command attention. When they do speak, their words carry weight. Silence becomes part of their authority. People listen more carefully because communication is rare and deliberate. Execution always matters more than announcement. Results silence critics. Achievement needs no advertisement. Let progress speak. Let outcomes reveal what intentions concealed. Mastering this principle gives you control over timing, narrative, and direction. You move without friction. You protect your focus. You build quietly and reveal strategically. 4. Always say less than necessary. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene centers on restraint, presence, and psychological leverage. Words are powerful, but too many words weaken impact. When you speak excessively, you reveal more than intended: your plans, emotions, insecurities, and limits. The more you talk, the easier it becomes for others to predict you, challenge you, or use your own statements against you. Controlled speech, on the other hand, creates authority. Silence has weight. People instinctively assign confidence to those who do not rush to fill every pause. A measured speaker appears composed, thoughtful, and emotionally disciplined. This perception alone elevates status. When your words are limited, each one carries greater value. Listeners lean in. Attention sharpens. Your presence becomes stronger without raising your voice. Over-explaining often signals a need for approval. It suggests nervousness or uncertainty. Powerful communicators trust that a clear, concise message is enough. They don't chase validation through constant talking. They state their point and allow silence to do the rest. Silence creates tension, and tension holds attention. There is also strategic protection in brevity. The more you speak, the more material others have to analyze, question, or distort. Long explanations invite debate. Short statements reduce openings for opposition. In negotiations, fewer words prevent accidental concessions. In leadership, concise direction prevents confusion. In conflict, restraint prevents escalation. Emotion is another factor. When people are excited, angry, or anxious, they speak impulsively. Impulsive speech often leads to regret. Words spoken in emotion cannot be retrieved. Discipline in speech protects relationships and reputation. Calm brevity reflects emotional control, and emotional control commands respect. Listening becomes your advantage when you speak less. You observe tone, intention, and hidden meaning in others' words. People reveal themselves when given space. The quieter you are, the more information you gather. Information creates leverage. Leverage creates influence. Speaking less does not mean lacking communication skills. It means precision. Remove filler. Remove repetition. Remove unnecessary detail. Deliver the message clearly and stop. Let others process. Let them ask questions. This shifts conversational control toward you. In social dynamics, mystery increases perceived depth. When people cannot fully read you, they become more curious and cautious. Predictability reduces influence. Reserved expression increases it. Master communicators understand timing. They know when to speak and when silence is stronger. Often, the most powerful statement is the one you choose not to make. Refined speech signals discipline, intelligence, and authority. Your voice becomes sharper. Your presence becomes heavier. Your influence becomes quieter but stronger. 5. Guard your reputation with your life. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene teaches that reputation is invisible power. Before you speak, before you act, before people meet you, your reputation arrives first. It shapes expectations, trust, opportunity, and influence. A strong reputation opens doors quietly. A damaged one closes them loudly. In social and professional life, perception often outweighs reality. Reputation acts like social currency. People decide whether to work with you, support you, or avoid you based on what they've heard and observed. Consistency builds credibility. When your actions repeatedly reflect discipline, integrity, and competence, your name begins to carry weight. Over time, your presence alone signals reliability. That signal attracts opportunity without you chasing it. But reputation is fragile. One careless moment can undo years of disciplined effort. Emotional outbursts, dishonesty, public conflicts, and poor associations leave lasting impressions. People remember dramatic negatives more than quiet positives. That is why self-control is essential. Protecting reputation means managing behavior, reactions, and environment. There is also strategic defense involved. Competitors may attempt to damage your image through rumors or subtle attacks. Ignoring minor negativity can be wise, but serious threats must be addressed calmly and clearly. Silence works when accusations are weak. Direct clarity works when credibility is at risk. The key is responding without emotional chaos. Associations matter. The people you align with influence how others see you. Consistent proximity to disciplined, ethical individuals strengthens your image. Repeated connection with reckless or dishonest circles weakens it. Reputation spreads through networks. Visibility amplifies everything. In the digital age, actions travel fast and stay longer. Words posted casually can resurface years later. Guarding reputation now requires awareness both offline and online. Think long-term before short-term reactions. A powerful reputation also creates psychological advantage. People give you the benefit of the doubt. Mistakes are forgiven faster. Opportunities come easier. Trust builds quicker. Influence expands naturally. Building reputation is slow. Damaging it is fast. Repairing it is difficult. That is why prevention is smarter than recovery. Live in a way that your name carries respect in rooms you haven't entered. Let consistency speak. Let discipline define you. Let your image work for you quietly. 6. Court attention at all costs. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene highlights a modern reality. Invisibility is weakness. No matter how skilled, intelligent, or capable you are, if people don't notice you, your value remains unused. Attention is the gateway to influence. Power begins when eyes turn toward you, when your presence interrupts the ordinary, and when your name stays in people's minds. Human attention is limited. People remember what stands out. The unusual, the bold, the visually striking, the emotionally engaging, these elements capture focus. Blending into the background may feel safe, but it prevents recognition. Those who rise in competitive environments understand visibility as strategy. They present themselves with intention. Their work is seen. Their ideas are heard. Their presence is felt. This does not mean reckless behavior or desperate noise. It means deliberate distinctiveness. Develop a recognizable identity. A clear voice. A consistent image. A memorable style. Whether in business, leadership, or creative fields, strong positioning makes you easier to remember and recommend. Familiarity builds trust. Recognition builds opportunity. There is also psychological leverage in attention. When people notice you frequently, your perceived importance increases. Visibility creates authority. Authority attracts influence. Influence attracts access. The cycle reinforces itself. The more present you are, the more relevant you appear. However, attention must be managed. Negative attention can damage credibility. The goal is strategic visibility, being seen for strengths, value, and uniqueness. Quality sustains attention. Substance keeps it. Presentation matters. Communication style, appearance, delivery, and timing shape how people receive you. A powerful message delivered poorly gets ignored. A well-presented idea travels further. Packaging affects perception. In professional spaces, visibility leads to opportunity. Leaders promote those they notice. Clients choose those they remember. Audiences follow those who engage them. Hidden talent rarely advances. Visible value does. The digital world amplifies this law. Platforms reward presence. Consistency builds audience. Distinct identity builds loyalty. Attention has become a measurable asset. Do not fear being seen. Refine how you are seen. Stand out with intention. Be memorable for the right reasons. Let your presence create openings your silence never could. If this sharpened your understanding of influence and visibility, subscribe to the channel for more deep insights on power, psychology, strategy, and personal growth. 7. Get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene is about leverage, coordination, and intelligent leadership. Power grows when effort is multiplied. Trying to do everything alone limits scale, drains energy, and slows progress. True influence comes from directing resources, talent, and systems so results expand beyond your personal capacity. Every major achievement in history has been a coordinated effort. Leaders who understand delegation transform individual skill into collective output. They organize strengths, assign roles, and align people toward a single outcome. This creates efficiency. More gets done in less time. Energy is preserved for decision-making and strategy rather than exhaustion from execution. Taking credit is not about theft, it is about ownership of vision and responsibility. When you lead a project, you represent its outcome. Success strengthens your credibility. Failure teaches accountability. Visibility at the leadership level attracts opportunity, investment, and trust. People support those who appear capable of delivering results. Delegation also empowers others. When people contribute meaningfully, they build competence and loyalty. Shared effort creates shared purpose. A strong leader recognizes talent and positions people where they perform best. This raises team morale and overall performance. Strategic leaders focus on high-value tasks, planning, oversight, relationships, and long-term direction. Operational details can be distributed. This division of labor is how organizations scale. It is how influence expands. However, balance matters. Publicly acknowledge contributions. Privately reward effort. People remain motivated when their work is respected. Leadership is not exploitation, it is orchestration. Leverage is the multiplier of power. One person's effort has limits. Coordinated effort creates exponential results. Direct the system. Guide the mission. Represent the outcome. 8. Make other people come to you, use bait if necessary. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene teaches that control often comes from positioning rather than force. When others pursue you, they reveal their priorities, vulnerabilities, and intentions. You retain initiative, dictate timing, and operate from strength. Conversely, chasing people places you in a reactive stance, exposes desperation, and diminishes influence. The psychology behind this is simple. People value what they must seek. When you are always available, your presence loses gravity. Scarcity drives desire. Being deliberately selective creates perceived importance. By letting others approach you, you shift power subtly into your hands. They negotiate on your terms, respond to your signals, and often compete for your attention, an indirect measure of your influence. Strategically, bait can be anything that attracts the right people, valuable information, compelling projects, enticing opportunities, or even subtle signals of expertise. You create a pull effect instead of pushing aggressively. For instance, in professional settings, rather than emailing every potential client, position your work or message so it reaches them through networks or reputation. The initiative then appears to originate with them, while you remain in control of the context. There's also a psychological element of patience. When people come to you, they invest effort. Effort creates attachment. They become more committed to interaction, more respectful of your time, and more likely to value your judgment. This is how influence compounds quietly. People who chase constantly risk fatigue and resistance. Those who are approached gain respect and authority. In social, professional, and strategic contexts, this law protects energy and builds leverage. It minimizes unnecessary confrontation and maximizes perception of power. You decide when to engage, how much to reveal, and the conditions under which interaction occurs. This control allows you to shape outcomes more effectively. Additionally, this law nurtures opportunity. By standing firm and creating attraction rather than chasing, you filter out trivial pursuits and draw in serious, aligned interests. Quality of engagement rises. Your network, influence, and reputation strengthen naturally. Execution matters. Use subtle cues, reputation, and selective visibility to draw attention. Be interesting, valuable, and occasionally mysterious. Avoid desperation. Control comes from attraction, not pressure. Master this, and others will come to you willingly, negotiating on your terms, leaving you the initiative and space to maneuver strategically. 9. Win through your actions, never through argument. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene emphasizes that demonstrating power is far more effective than talking about it. Words alone rarely persuade. People often resist logic, advice, or criticism when it challenges their ego. Argument triggers defensiveness, doubt, and conflict. Actions, on the other hand, provide undeniable evidence of capability, strength, and competence. They leave no room for dispute because results speak louder than opinions. History is filled with examples of people who convince through deeds rather than debate. Generals who command victories earn loyalty. Leaders who deliver results earn trust. Innovators who create successful solutions gain influence. Words alone cannot replicate this authority. Arguments can create friction. Results create followers. Psychologically, humans are influenced more by observed behavior than verbal persuasion. When you act decisively, others interpret confidence, skill, and foresight. In contrast, prolonged argument often signals insecurity. Trying to convince through speech risks exposing doubt or weakness. Action bypasses this vulnerability. Demonstrating rather than explaining shifts perception in your favor. This principle also prevents unnecessary conflict. Arguments drain energy, invite retaliation, and waste time. Actions achieve goals while maintaining composure. They also control narrative. When results manifest, the evidence aligns with your strategy, leaving no ambiguity about competence or authority. Another key element is subtlety. Actions can be crafted to influence without overt confrontation. Strategic moves often carry lessons or warnings implicitly. Observers learn your strength indirectly, which avoids resentment, while still establishing dominance. People respect competence more than rhetoric because competence can be verified independently. In leadership, business, or personal influence, this law protects credibility. Delivering tangible outcomes builds trust faster than promises or debates. It transforms skeptics into allies because people respond to proof. Reputation grows from repeated demonstration, not from claims. Consistency is critical. Sporadic action creates uncertainty. Regular, visible execution reinforces authority. When you consistently act effectively, patterns emerge, and perception of skill solidifies. People begin to defer decisions, support initiatives, and trust judgment based on your proven record. Mastering this law means prioritizing execution over persuasion, letting results validate your position. Speak less about what you intend, focus more on what you achieve, and let your accomplishments do the persuading. 10. Infection. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene teaches that emotions, behaviors, and misfortunes are contagious. People unconsciously absorb the moods and attitudes of those around them. Spending time with negative, pessimistic, or chronically unlucky individuals can drag down your own energy, outlook, and momentum. Their defeatism seeps into your thinking, their complaints sap focus, and their failures can reflect poorly on you even without direct involvement. Power thrives on positivity, confidence, and energy, and exposure to toxic attitudes erodes these qualities silently but profoundly. Humans are naturally empathetic. When someone expresses despair or misfortune, we instinctively respond with concern or mirrored emotion. Over time, repeated exposure shapes perception and behavior. In social, professional, and personal environments, consistent negativity can cloud judgment, reduce risk tolerance, and lower ambition. It becomes a subtle but persistent drain on power. Conversely, being around confident, optimistic, and successful individuals reinforces courage, innovation, and resilience. Energy and attitude are cumulative, and choosing companions carefully protects your own strategic strength. Avoiding negative influences does not mean rejecting empathy. It means managing exposure strategically. Support friends and colleagues appropriately, but recognize when continual association compromises your mindset or opportunities. Distance yourself from those whose problems dominate their interactions or who habitually attract misfortune. Their influence may seem subtle at first, but over time it can alter decisions, reduce ambition, and dampen results. Protect your focus by curating the company you keep. This principle also extends to reputation. Associating too closely with the unlucky or disgraced can taint your perceived value. Observers often judge not only by individual merit but by surrounding context. Being linked to consistent failure or unhappiness can create skepticism about your abilities, judgment, or prospects. Strategic distancing safeguards your reputation while maintaining personal integrity. In leadership and power dynamics, energy management is critical. Leaders who surround themselves with motivated, capable, and positive individuals amplify productivity and morale. They avoid distractions and emotional contagion that erode influence. Networks of competent, optimistic people increase access, opportunities, and resilience against setbacks. Negative individuals rarely create progress and often consume resources, attention, and emotional bandwidth. Finally, understand the subtle influence of habits. People are shaped more by consistent exposure than isolated incidents. Repeated negativity or misfortune in your circle has compounding effects. Conversely, sustained positive influence fosters confidence, strategic clarity, and innovation. The power of environment is underestimated but crucial. Mastering who you allow near you amplifies every other law of influence and strategy. 11. Learn to make people depend on you. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene is central to creating lasting influence. Power is not just about what you can take, it's about what others need from you. When people rely on your skills, knowledge, resources, or guidance, you control the terms of engagement. Dependence ensures loyalty, respect, and influence because people naturally value what they cannot easily replace. Human nature prefers stability and convenience. When someone becomes indispensable, others adjust their behavior to maintain access. This creates leverage without confrontation. You no longer need to fight for attention or approval. Those who benefit from your value voluntarily defer to your judgment. Dependence transforms transactional relationships into strategic advantages. Creating dependence requires unique skills or assets. Offer solutions that others cannot easily replicate. Be the go-to person for critical knowledge, resources, or decision-making. Anticipate needs and position yourself as essential before being asked. When your contribution becomes central to success, influence grows naturally. People seek guidance, validation, or permission from those who hold what they need. However, balance is critical. If dependence is too obvious or coerced, it breeds resentment. People resent being trapped or manipulated. The goal is subtle indispensability. Offer value openly and consistently, but avoid creating visible strings that feel controlling. The perception of choice must remain, even when options are limited. Dependence also strengthens your security. Those who rely on you are less likely to challenge your authority. Their success is linked to your continued presence and contribution. This dynamic protects your position while expanding influence. Powerful individuals cultivate networks of interdependent relationships rather than relying solely on isolated accomplishments. This principle also applies to social and professional strategy. Mentors who provide essential guidance become influential beyond formal titles. Entrepreneurs who solve unique problems dominate markets. Advisors whose expertise is irreplaceable gain leverage. Across contexts, indispensability multiplies authority. Finally, the art of dependence is sustainable when combined with respect, competence, and discretion. Avoid creating resentment through overreach. Build loyalty through consistent value and reliability. When people cannot function effectively without your presence, power flows naturally. You do not need to demand it, it is granted by necessity. 12. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene emphasizes the subtle yet powerful effect of unexpected sincerity. People instinctively lower their guard when confronted with honesty or generosity because it contradicts their expectation of self-interest and competition. By giving a glimpse of integrity or offering a meaningful gesture, you create trust, reduce suspicion, and gain influence over the situation. Human psychology responds strongly to gestures that appear selfless or transparent. Selective honesty signals reliability, competence, and a lack of hidden motives, even if it is partial or strategic. A well-timed act of generosity or a candid admission disarms skepticism, makes opponents more pliable, and strengthens alliances. People naturally reciprocate, feeling compelled to respond in kind or to grant concessions. This law is not about naive trust or constant giving. It is about calculated deployment. Honesty and generosity must be credible and significant enough to be noticed but not so excessive that they undermine your leverage. The goal is to create an opening, socially, emotionally, or strategically, without losing control of the situation. The appearance of integrity builds influence far faster than coercion, intimidation, or overt force. In practical terms, this can take many forms: a compliment that acknowledges someone's strength, a small but meaningful gift, transparent reasoning for a decision, or conceding a minor point in negotiation. Each act signals goodwill and lowers resistance, enabling larger strategic goals. People are more likely to comply, follow, or cooperate after experiencing authentic feeling benevolence. History and modern strategy alike demonstrate the power of this principle. Great leaders, negotiators, and diplomats use selective honesty to neutralize enemies, win over skeptics, and strengthen loyalty. The tactic leverages the natural human tendency toward reciprocity. When someone perceives fairness or kindness, they feel morally inclined to respond positively. Furthermore, this strategy protects your image. Strategic generosity portrays you as fair and ethical while maintaining control. Others perceive you as trustworthy, reducing their incentive to undermine you. Yet, the underlying advantage remains. By disarming opponents, you gain access to opportunities and influence that would otherwise require coercion or confrontation. The law works best when combined with subtlety. Overexposure of honesty or generosity can create vulnerability or make you appear naive. The key is selective, deliberate acts that strategically align with your goals. Disarm the wary, build alliances, and create openings while preserving ultimate control. If this deepened your understanding of influence, persuasion, and strategic social intelligence, subscribe to the channel for more insights on power, psychology, strategy, and mastering human dynamics. 13. When asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, never to their mercy or gratitude. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene reveals a fundamental truth about human motivation. People are more responsive to benefit than to obligation. While appealing to kindness, fairness, or past favors can sometimes work, it is far less reliable than showing someone what they gain by helping you. Self-interest drives action because humans instinctively protect and advance their own advantage. When you frame requests in terms of someone's gain, you reduce resistance, increase enthusiasm, and ensure commitment. People are motivated when they perceive personal advantage, whether it's status, profit, recognition, or influence. By making your objectives align with their goals, you transform cooperation from an altruistic act into a rational, mutually beneficial decision. The result is stronger, faster, and more sustainable support. This law is subtle. It is not about selfish manipulation but about strategic alignment. Understanding what drives someone allows you to present your request as an opportunity rather than a burden. In professional settings, highlighting how collaboration enhances someone's position or success makes them far more willing to act. In personal contexts, demonstrating the value of support or partnership ensures engagement without creating resentment or guilt. The psychology is simple. People are naturally protective of their interests. Appeals based solely on gratitude or morality often trigger defensiveness, hesitation, or doubt. Self-interest frames action in terms of gain, making compliance rational rather than optional. By demonstrating benefit clearly, you turn a favor into a strategic transaction where both parties gain, and the outcome is more likely to be achieved efficiently. Timing and delivery are also critical. Position your request so the benefit is obvious and immediate, or linked to long-term advantage. Avoid abstract appeals to loyalty or emotion alone. Concrete, tangible benefits strengthen commitment. The more aligned your objectives with the other person's interests, the stronger the leverage you create. This principle does not exclude honesty or ethics. It refines persuasion by understanding what truly motivates behavior. Strategic alignment allows influence without coercion, maximizes efficiency, and fosters voluntary cooperation. Those who master this law consistently gain allies and support, while avoiding unnecessary conflict or dependency on goodwill alone. 14. Pose as a friend, work as a spy. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene emphasizes the value of information in creating influence. Knowledge is power, but not all knowledge is accessible without effort. People reveal more than they realize when they feel safe, relaxed, or trusted. By cultivating a friendly, approachable presence while observing closely, you can gather insights that others might guard against outsiders. Understanding motives, weaknesses, ambitions, and emotional triggers allows you to act with precision and advantage. Human behavior is transparent to those who watch attentively. Words, tone, and nonverbal cues expose intentions and sentiments. Friends or casual allies often unconsciously share details about conflicts, frustrations, or desires. When approached strategically, this information becomes a tool for planning, persuasion, or negotiation. The key is subtlety. Observation should appear natural, integrated into normal social interaction, and never threatening. People must feel comfortable and unrestricted while you quietly absorb knowledge. The spy-like aspect of this principle is not about dishonesty for its own sake, but about cultivating awareness. Appear open, approachable, and trustworthy, while your mind collects patterns, behaviors, and tendencies. Over time, this intelligence allows you to anticipate moves, prevent problems, and identify opportunities. Knowledge allows control without confrontation. It transforms uncertainty into strategic advantage. In professional or political contexts, this skill is invaluable. Understanding competitors' limitations, priorities, and alliances gives you leverage in negotiation, decision-making, and alliance formation. In personal dynamics, it clarifies motivations and predicts responses. Acting on information gathered discreetly ensures that interventions are timely, measured, and effective. Ethics and perception matter. The goal is subtle intelligence, not harmful betrayal. Misused, spying erodes trust and credibility. Applied correctly, it enhances influence while maintaining relationships. People are more likely to cooperate when guided discreetly by insight rather than coerced by overt manipulation. Mastery of this principle requires patience, observation, and emotional intelligence. Recognize patterns, note inconsistencies, and interpret signals. Information collected through careful observation often yields more than confrontation or questioning ever could. The person who knows the inner dynamics of a situation controls outcomes far more effectively. 15. Crush your enemy totally. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene is one of the most uncompromising rules of power. Half measures leave room for retaliation. When a rival is only weakened or partially neutralized, they have time, resources, and motivation to recover. Resentment festers. Alliances may form against you. Your temporary advantage can quickly turn into permanent vulnerability. To secure influence, dominance must be decisive and thorough. Human nature ensures that unresolved threats linger. Weak adversaries may accept defeat temporarily, but when their strength is underestimated, they prepare silently for comeback. Strategic elimination removes ambiguity. It sends a clear signal to observers: resistance is futile. This not only neutralizes threats but also consolidates your authority. Others are less likely to challenge you if they witness the consequences of partial opposition. This principle is often misunderstood as cruelty or aggression for its own sake. It is primarily about strategic clarity. In both personal and professional arenas, leaving loose ends invites instability. For instance, a rival in business who is left with some leverage may undermine future projects. A political opponent who retains minor influence can destabilize your position later. Crushing the threat thoroughly creates a stable environment in which your power can grow unchallenged. Timing and planning are crucial. Hasty or reckless action can backfire. Analyze the rival's resources, alliances, and vulnerabilities. Strike with precision. The goal is effective neutralization, not needless destruction. In some cases, symbolic measures, such as decisive negotiation, legal authority, or social influence, can achieve total impact without overt aggression, but the effect must leave no room for recovery. Psychologically, decisive action reinforces your image. Observers respect competence and fear hesitation. Power is not only about achieving goals but demonstrating control. When enemies see that opposition leads to complete defeat, deterrence occurs naturally. Others think twice before testing boundaries or challenging authority. This law does not advocate indiscriminate hostility. It targets real threats that endanger your position. Friendships, alliances, and neutral parties should be maintained carefully. Misapplied, this principle can isolate you. Applied correctly, it secures your environment, eliminates threats, and strengthens strategic positioning. Mastering this law ensures stability, respect, and safety. Partial victories create ongoing danger. Total resolution creates clarity. Power thrives in environments where uncertainty is minimized and control is unmistakable. 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene teaches that presence is not always power. Strategic absence often amplifies it. People tend to undervalue what is constantly available. When you are always present, your value becomes ordinary, predictable, and taken for granted. By withdrawing deliberately, you create space, anticipation, and desire. Scarcity enhances perception. Human psychology reacts strongly to absence. What is rare or limited seems more valuable. When you step away temporarily, people notice your absence and appreciate your presence more fully. Your influence grows not because you do more, but because your perceived importance increases. Strategic absence shifts control. Those who must seek you or wait for your attention operate on your terms, not theirs. This law applies in social, professional, and personal contexts. In leadership, constant availability can dilute authority. Decision-makers who always respond immediately may appear weak or dependent on others' inputs. In creative fields, overexposure can reduce admiration. Relationships often deepen when space allows longing and reflection. Absence builds emotional and social leverage without confrontation. Execution matters. Withdrawal must be intentional, not due to neglect or avoidance. Communicate subtly if needed, but maintain the impression of choice. The goal is to foster respect and curiosity, not resentment. Carefully timed absence can increase anticipation, make interactions more meaningful, and highlight your value. There is also a strategic negotiation advantage. People who invest effort to reach you are more committed to outcomes and more likely to respect boundaries. Absence can also test loyalty, reveal true intentions, and clarify who genuinely values your contribution. This principle does not advocate isolation. It advocates calibrated scarcity. Combine presence and absence in a rhythm that maximizes respect and influence. Let others feel your absence as meaningful, then return with impact. People remember what they miss and respect those who are not perpetually available. Applied correctly, absence elevates perception, strengthens authority, and increases control over relationships and environments. Power is not just in action but in measured restraint, and strategic withdrawal is a tool to magnify your influence without overt effort. 17. Keep others in suspended terror. Cultivate an air of unpredictability. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene emphasizes the psychological advantage of unpredictability. When people cannot anticipate your actions, they are forced to remain alert, cautious, and respectful. Predictability breeds control for others, but unpredictability transfers control to you. By keeping your behavior and responses fluid, you maintain power over both the situation and those around you. Human beings instinctively seek patterns. Predictable behavior allows them to prepare, counteract, or manipulate. When your responses are erratic, unconventional, or strategically surprising, it creates an aura of power. People hesitate before challenging you, overthink their own actions, and give you deference by default. Suspense becomes a subtle form of authority because uncertainty creates tension, and tension is attention. This law is not about chaos for its own sake. The unpredictability must be deliberate and measured. If you act without purpose, others will see instability, not power. Instead, cultivate strategic surprises that reinforce your position. A well-timed decision, an unexpected gesture, or a sudden withdrawal can reset the dynamics in your favor. People will adjust to your rhythm, aligning their behavior with the impression of your control. Unpredictability also shields your intentions. When others cannot anticipate your next move, it becomes harder to sabotage or oppose you. Your plans remain obscured, and your leverage increases. Competitors, subordinates, and allies alike are forced to negotiate on your terms, respond cautiously, and respect your influence. In social and professional contexts, this principle magnifies authority. Leaders who operate unpredictably generate attention and loyalty. Negotiators who vary tactics gain advantage. Innovators who defy convention attract curiosity and followership. Your actions become magnified because each move carries potential consequence. Others monitor you closely, often overcompensating in caution, which gives you space to maneuver. Balance is essential. Excessive unpredictability can alienate allies, erode trust, or create unnecessary fear. The goal is strategic variability, enough to command attention and respect, but grounded in competence and purpose. Emotional intelligence guides when to surprise and when to maintain stability. Mastery of this law ensures that others remain alert, deferential, and aligned with your intentions. Suspense generates authority. Calculated unpredictability strengthens position. By keeping people uncertain of your next move, you maintain the psychological upper hand. 18. Do not build fortresses to protect yourself. Isolation is dangerous. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene emphasizes the importance of social networks, information flow, and strategic visibility. Isolation may feel safe because it removes immediate threats, but it also cuts off allies, intelligence, and opportunities. Power is not maintained in seclusion, it is strengthened through connection, observation, and influence over the environment. Human dynamics are interdependent. Decisions, influence, and opportunity often rely on relationships and information. By retreating into a fortress, literal or metaphorical, You reduce your ability to act effectively. You lose awareness of competitors' movements, shifts in alliances, and emerging opportunities. Those who isolate themselves often become vulnerable to surprise attacks, manipulation, or irrelevance. The world moves around them, and without connection, they lack the capacity to respond strategically. Instead, cultivate networks and presence. Maintain visibility without overexposure. Engage with allies, competitors, and observers strategically to gain intelligence. Observe dynamics closely. Influence flows more easily when you are present, informed, and connected. People who retreat too much surrender initiative and control, leaving openings for others to shape outcomes. There is also a psychological aspect. Isolation fosters paranoia, indecision, and overcautiousness. Leaders who engage with the world develop confidence, awareness, and credibility. Being connected allows calculated risk-taking because information reduces uncertainty. Power thrives on knowledge and relationships. Isolation starves it. Fortifications, whether physical, social, or emotional, must be replaced with selective engagement. Be visible in the right circles, maintain access to influencers, and stay attuned to emerging trends. Your presence should project control, awareness, and adaptability rather than fear or defensiveness. Networks provide both protection and leverage. Allies support you, feedback alerts you, and perception enhances influence. History demonstrates that those who isolate often fall quickly, while those who navigate complex social webs survive and thrive. Isolation may protect temporarily, but it weakens long-term position. Strategic engagement allows you to shape the environment, command loyalty, and anticipate threats. Mastery of this law ensures safety, influence, and resilience. Being connected is power. Isolation is vulnerability. Build networks, stay aware, and engage wisely to maintain authority and opportunity. 19. Know who you're dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene emphasizes strategic awareness and emotional intelligence. Not everyone reacts the same way to provocation, criticism, or challenge. People vary in temperament, ambition, influence, and capacity for revenge. Misjudging someone can create a dangerous adversary, while careful assessment allows you to navigate relationships effectively, neutralize threats, and maximize opportunities. Human behavior is complex. Some people are forgiving, some are vengeful. Some are ambitious and cautious, others impulsive and ruthless. Understanding personalities and power dynamics allows you to anticipate reactions. Offending the wrong person can trigger retaliation, social sabotage, or long-term obstruction. Respectful navigation of potential hazards minimizes risk and preserves influence. Strategically, this principle encourages observation before action. Analyze patterns, alliances, and priorities. Learn what motivates, what provokes, and what restrains. Awareness allows you to act assertively with confidence, avoiding unnecessary enemies. Target criticism or challenge where it yields advantage without igniting disproportionate resistance. Timing and delivery are crucial. There is also psychological leverage. People respond differently when they feel respected versus insulted. Strategic engagement can turn potential adversaries into allies or neutral parties. By understanding motivations, you can shape perceptions, diffuse hostility, and influence behavior. Misjudgment, however, exposes vulnerabilities and creates unnecessary conflict. Professional and personal contexts benefit from this awareness. In business, a miscalculated confrontation can cost deals or reputation. In leadership, underestimating someone's influence or sensitivity can destabilize teams. In social situations, offending the wrong person can lead to isolation or social backlash. Knowledge of character informs strategy, reduces errors, and enhances positioning. Mastery of this law requires careful listening, observation, and deduction. Map social and power networks, anticipate emotional triggers, and measure the potential consequences of action. Acting without awareness creates unnecessary risk. Acting with insight preserves authority and strengthens influence. Applied correctly, this principle transforms risk into control. You learn not only who to confront but also who to appease, collaborate with, or neutralize. Strategic discretion preserves power and builds long-term advantage. 20. Do not commit to anyone. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene emphasizes independence and strategic freedom. Power is amplified when you are not bound by loyalty, obligation, or alliance that limits your choices. Committing too early or too strongly to one person, faction, or cause reduces flexibility, exposes vulnerabilities, and allows others to manipulate you through dependency or expectation. Human relationships carry implicit pressures. Friends, colleagues, or associates often expect reciprocity, alignment, or influence over your decisions. While alliances can offer support, overcommitment creates leverage for others. A single alliance may limit opportunities elsewhere, constrain movement, and increase exposure to risk if the ally falters or turns hostile. Maintaining autonomy ensures you can act strategically without external coercion. This principle does not advocate total isolation or hostility. It is about measured independence. Observe, collaborate, and negotiate as needed, but avoid binding agreements that compromise your freedom. Keep options open, and maintain neutrality until engagement clearly serves your objectives. By doing so, you retain initiative and control over your trajectory. Strategically, this law enhances flexibility. You can align with multiple parties, shift alliances when advantageous, and leverage relationships without fear of obligation. Others may attempt to bind you with flattery, loyalty appeals, or promises. By resisting premature commitment, you increase bargaining power and avoid being cornered. Psychologically, non-commitment conveys confidence and self-sufficiency. People respect those who are autonomous, decisive, and unpredictable. Being free from over-reliance allows calculated risk-taking and strategic maneuvering that bound individuals cannot achieve. Applied carefully, this law protects your independence while allowing you to exploit opportunities without compromise. Freedom of movement and thought strengthens authority, perception, and decision-making. Mastery of this principle ensures that power flows from flexibility, autonomy, and calculated engagement rather than from dependency or obligation. By committing selectively, or not at all, you retain control, maximize influence, and navigate complex social dynamics with confidence. If this clarified the value of strategic autonomy and influence, subscribe to the channel for more insights on power, psychology, strategy, and timeless methods to strengthen personal and professional authority. 21. Play a sucker to catch a sucker, seem dumber than your mark. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene teaches the subtle art of strategic deception. People often overestimate their intelligence and underestimate yours when you appear less capable than you are. By lowering their guard, you encourage arrogance, overconfidence, and careless mistakes, which can be exploited to your advantage. Seeming less informed or capable allows you to observe, manipulate, and control situations more effectively. Human pride makes this law effective. People want to feel superior and in control. If you present yourself as naive or lacking skill, they relax, underestimate you, and reveal their intentions. This psychological advantage lets you gain information, anticipate actions, and position yourself for decisive moves. Overconfidence in opponents is a powerful tool, and feigned simplicity amplifies your strategic leverage. Execution requires subtlety. Overacting or appearing obviously foolish can backfire, making you a target of ridicule or dismissal without gaining advantage. The key is controlled behavior. Allow others to feel superior while you quietly gather insight, resources, and opportunities. When the time is right, reveal competence decisively, leaving them surprised and unprepared. This principle applies in negotiation, competition, and social dynamics. In business, pretending to lack knowledge about certain processes can encourage competitors or colleagues to overexpose strategies or weaknesses. In personal interactions, humility or feigned ignorance can elicit cooperation, confession, or compliance. Seeming harmless or uninformed lowers defenses, allowing influence to expand quietly and effectively. There is also a timing element. Maintain the illusion long enough to gather advantage, then act decisively. Revealing intelligence too soon can provoke opposition. Revealing it too late may miss opportunities. The art lies in balancing subtlety, patience, and timing for maximum effect. Applied correctly, this law allows you to manipulate perception, leverage human ego, and achieve objectives with minimal confrontation. It transforms underestimation into strategic opportunity. 22. Use the surrender tactic. Transform weakness into power. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene emphasizes the strategic advantage of yielding when necessary. At first glance, surrender appears to be a sign of defeat, but when applied skillfully, it allows you to conserve energy, redirect conflict, and manipulate perception. By yielding temporarily, you disarm opponents, reduce hostility, and create openings for future advantage. Human reactions to surrender are predictable. When someone gives up gracefully or submits strategically, the opponent often lowers their guard, assuming victory. This creates opportunities to negotiate, regroup, or reposition. Yielding does not signify permanent loss. It is a tactical maneuver to transform apparent weakness into leverage. The appearance of humility or compliance can mask long-term control and planning. Execution requires subtlety and timing. Surrender must appear genuine, credible, and proportional to the situation. Overdoing it can signal incompetence or invite exploitation. Underplaying it may fail to disarm the opponent. The goal is to create a temporary cessation of conflict that allows for strategic recalibration, observation, or preparation for the next move. By surrendering, you manipulate perception and control the narrative without engaging in destructive confrontation. This tactic is effective across contexts. In negotiations, it can prompt concessions or reduce resistance. In social dynamics, it can ease tension and gain trust. In competitive environments, it buys time to reorganize resources or alliances. Yielding strategically creates the illusion of weakness while giving you the space to plan, strengthen, and ultimately assert power on your own terms. Psychologically, surrender can evoke sympathy, reduce scrutiny, and temper hostility. Opponents who perceive you as harmless temporarily may reveal intentions, overextend, or make mistakes that create future opportunities. By understanding human behavior, surrender transforms vulnerability into strategic advantage. Mastery of this law lies in restraint, perception, and timing. Weakness becomes a tool when framed strategically, allowing you to recover, dominate, and redirect outcomes. Power is preserved not only in victory but in intelligent retreat. 23. Concentrate your forces. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene emphasizes the strategic advantage of focus. Power, influence, and results are amplified when energy, resources, and attention are directed toward a single decisive goal rather than dispersed across multiple, competing objectives. Diffused effort diminishes impact, reduces effectiveness, and weakens authority. By concentrating your forces, you maximize leverage, speed, and control. Human endeavors are most effective when focused. Spreading attention over many projects, alliances, or goals can create mediocrity, missed opportunities, and vulnerability to competitors. Concentration allows mastery, depth, and momentum. Whether in business, leadership, or personal influence, those who focus on a core strength dominate their chosen field or domain. Execution involves prioritization. Identify the most critical objective, the one that will yield the greatest strategic advantage or influence, and allocate resources accordingly. This includes time, energy, personnel, and finances. Avoid distraction, trivial tasks, and competing agendas. By concentrating, you become formidable in a targeted area, creating results that overwhelm opponents and attract attention, support, and authority. Psychologically, concentrated effort signals purpose, discipline, and competence. People respect and follow individuals who demonstrate clear vision and decisive action. Scattered effort, by contrast, appears indecisive, weak, and unreliable. Focused action communicates confidence and mastery, amplifying both perception and reality of power. There is also strategic timing and concentration. Accumulate strength quietly, avoid premature exposure, and strike decisively when conditions are optimal. Momentum compounds when resources are unified, creating a decisive advantage that is difficult for competitors to counter. This law is closely tied to the principle of patience. Preparation and concentration precede maximum impact. Applied consistently, concentrating your forces allows you to dominate arenas where divided efforts falter. It transforms limited resources into significant influence, ensures efficiency, and increases the probability of achieving critical objectives. 24. Play the perfect courtier. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene teaches the art of subtle influence through charm, tact, and social intelligence. In any hierarchical or competitive environment, formal power is rarely the only force at play. The individual who understands nuance, flattery, and timing can manipulate situations, win favor, and gain advantage without overt confrontation. The perfect courtier knows how to navigate complex social structures to maximize influence while minimizing risk. Human behavior is strongly influenced by ego, ambition, and perception. Courtiers understand this dynamic and adapt their behavior to appeal to the desires and insecurities of those in power. They do not rely on brute force or authority. Instead, they use tact, observation, and charm to position themselves as indispensable allies. Their social skill allows them to extract favors, gain access, and protect themselves from political or social attacks. Execution involves awareness, adaptability, and discretion. The perfect courtier carefully observes hierarchy, relationships, and moods. They flatter appropriately, highlight the strengths of superiors, and subtly shape opinions to align with their own goals. They listen more than they speak, offering advice and support in ways that appear selfless while advancing personal objectives. Timing, tone, and subtlety are critical. Overdoing charm or manipulation invites suspicion or resentment. This law also requires mastering nonverbal influence. Body language, demeanor, and presence communicate confidence, respect, and reliability. Courtiers cultivate poise, patience, and the ability to navigate delicate situations without appearing opportunistic. They are experts at reading cues, predicting reactions, and shaping perception while maintaining personal safety. Strategically, the courtier balances ambition and loyalty. By serving superiors effectively while preserving independence, they accumulate influence without direct confrontation. Subtlety ensures survival and advancement. Allies become valuable, enemies are diffused, and opportunities are magnified through networks and perception management. Applied correctly, this principle allows you to maneuver through social hierarchies with grace, gain strategic influence, and secure long-term advantage. Power often resides in those who can navigate relationships and perception rather than in those with formal authority alone. 25. Recreate yourself. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene emphasizes the power of personal reinvention. Life, business, and social dynamics are constantly evolving. Those who cling rigidly to old identities, habits, or reputations risk becoming irrelevant or predictable. By intentionally shaping your persona, behavior, and image, you gain control over how others perceive you and create opportunities for influence, respect, and authority. Human perception is malleable. People respond not to reality alone but to the image projected. Reinvention allows you to shed limitations imposed by past failures, mistakes, or expectations. By consciously crafting a new identity, you redefine how others interact with you. The key is consistency. New behaviors, style, and presence must align to convincingly establish your transformation. Execution involves self-awareness and deliberate change. Identify traits, skills, or habits that no longer serve your strategic objectives, then cultivate qualities that enhance authority, charisma, and influence. This may include refining speech, adopting a distinct style, developing expertise, or projecting confidence in new ways. Reinvention is not deception, it is self-mastery and adaptation to environments that demand strength, relevance, and perception management. Strategically, recreating yourself protects against attacks and obsolescence. When opponents or peers expect predictability, innovation surprises them and strengthens your position. Reinvention also inspires respect and intrigue, making you memorable, valuable, and difficult to undermine. Those who remain stagnant are vulnerable to competition, criticism, and diminishing influence. Psychologically, self-reinvention empowers. You control narrative, influence perception, and shape outcomes. Confidence grows when identity aligns with capability. Reinvention signals adaptability, vision, and strength, qualities that attract allies, opportunities, and attention. Mastery of this law requires continuous self-assessment, courage, and strategic planning. Your reputation and power are enhanced not by passivity but by intentional evolution. Change allows you to dominate perception, open new avenues, and maintain relevance in competitive environments. 26. Keep your hands clean. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene teaches that power is best preserved when your image remains untarnished by controversy, wrongdoing, or dirty work. Those who seek influence often face conflicts, rivalries, and ethical dilemmas. Direct involvement in scandal, punishment, or controversial action can damage reputation and weaken authority. By letting others execute unpleasant tasks while maintaining a facade of innocence and integrity, you preserve both influence and respect. Human perception is sensitive to morality and appearance. People judge more by what they see than by hidden truths. A leader or influencer who appears honorable commands loyalty and respect even if behind-the-scenes actions are handled pragmatically. Delegating risky or morally ambiguous tasks shields you from criticism, prevents resentment, and maintains the psychological advantage of appearing above reproach. Execution requires careful delegation and narrative control. Identify capable proxies or intermediaries to carry out sensitive actions. Provide direction without leaving traces that compromise your reputation. Simultaneously, cultivate an image of fairness, integrity, and competence. This dual strategy protects your authority while achieving practical objectives. The key is balance: avoid overexposure, maintain credibility, and ensure outcomes align with your strategic goals. Strategically, keeping your hands clean prevents enemies from exploiting your actions to undermine you. People are more likely to respect authority when they perceive it as just and honorable. Maintaining this perception enhances influence, encourages compliance, and deters challenge. Even subtle evidence of culpability can erode power over time, making discretion essential. Psychologically, the law reinforces trust and confidence. Allies feel secure, observers respect judgment, and opponents hesitate. Those who act overtly or recklessly expose themselves to backlash, while those who appear composed, above the fray, and clean strengthen their position and control. Applied consistently, this law ensures that influence is preserved, reputation remains intact, and authority is reinforced without direct confrontation. Power is as much about perception as action, and keeping your hands clean maximizes both. 27. Play on people's need to believe to create a cult-like following. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene teaches that humans are wired to seek meaning, purpose, and a sense of belonging. Leaders and influencers who understand this can cultivate loyalty, devotion, and obedience by offering something larger than themselves, a vision, ideology, or identity that people can attach to emotionally. When individuals feel they are part of something significant, they are more likely to support, defend, and sacrifice for the leader's agenda. Human psychology craves structure, certainty, and purpose. People often feel lost without guidance, and a compelling narrative or charismatic figure can fill that void. By presenting clear principles, rituals, or an inspiring vision, you tap into a natural desire for belief. Followers invest emotionally, socially, and materially, often prioritizing loyalty over personal judgment. This creates a network of committed supporters who amplify your influence. Execution requires consistency, charisma, and credibility. Craft a narrative that resonates with people's desires and insecurities. Symbols, repeated messages, and emotional storytelling strengthen attachment. Encourage participation and identification, making followers feel integral to the movement or mission. Avoid overcomplicating messages. Clarity and emotional resonance matter more than logic. Reinforce loyalty through recognition, inclusion, and shared rituals. Strategically, this principle transforms passive audiences into active advocates. People who identify strongly with a vision often recruit others, defend the leader's decisions, and maintain cohesion even under pressure. It creates psychological commitment that is difficult to break, and it amplifies influence far beyond personal presence. Leaders who inspire belief cultivate long-term loyalty and resilience against opposition. Ethically, this law must be used with awareness. Manipulation is powerful but carries moral and social risk. Understanding its mechanics, however, is essential for influence, persuasion, and leadership. Applied wisely, it allows you to mobilize groups, solidify authority, and create enduring networks of support. Mastery of this law requires understanding human needs, crafting compelling narratives, and sustaining emotional connection. Belief generates devotion, and devotion multiplies influence. 28. Enter action with boldness. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene emphasizes that hesitation, doubt, and timidity are deadly in the pursuit of influence. Boldness projects confidence, authority, and competence. People respond to decisiveness because it reduces uncertainty and inspires trust. By acting boldly, you seize initiative, intimidate opponents, and create momentum that forces others to react on your terms rather than theirs. Human psychology favors the decisive. Indecision signals weakness, uncertainty, and vulnerability, inviting challenges and doubt. Bold action, in contrast, conveys mastery and control. Even when outcomes are uncertain, the perception of courage generates respect, attracts followers, and discourages opposition. Boldness amplifies both perception and reality of power because people assume those who act decisively know what they are doing. Execution requires clarity, commitment, and risk assessment. Bold action must be calculated, not reckless. Analyze circumstances, anticipate consequences, and act with confidence. Timing is critical. Hesitation or partial commitment undermines credibility. When you act boldly, others interpret hesitation as opportunity for negotiation, resistance, or challenge. Complete commitment, however, signals control and deters opposition. Strategically, boldness can create psychological leverage. It forces opponents to react defensively, buys you time, and sets the narrative. It also inspires allies, generates momentum, and opens doors that caution or subtlety might leave closed. Boldness compounds influence. Each decisive move strengthens authority, builds reputation, and increases perceived competence. There is also a creative advantage. Bold actions attract attention, set trends, and redefine boundaries. They break patterns of expectation, giving you control over perception and opportunity. Those who hesitate are often eclipsed by more audacious actors. Mastery of this law requires courage, planning, and commitment. Boldness transforms initiative into influence, ensures momentum, and establishes psychological dominance. Hesitation is lost opportunity, audacity generates respect and control. 29. Plan all the way to the end. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene emphasizes the importance of foresight, strategy, and anticipating consequences. Power is rarely achieved by improvisation alone. Those who act without long-term planning are vulnerable to unforeseen complications, opposition, and failure. By thinking several steps ahead, you control outcomes, minimize risk, and maintain dominance over circumstances and people. Human nature often prioritizes immediate gratification over long-term thinking. Many pursue short-term gains while ignoring the ripple effects of their actions. Strategic planning counters this tendency. When you plan to the end, you anticipate potential obstacles, reactions, and opportunities. You map the consequences of every decision, allowing preemptive action rather than reactive scrambling. This foresight is both protective and empowering. Execution involves mapping objectives, contingencies, and milestones. Define the ultimate goal clearly and break it into sequential, actionable steps. Consider allies, opponents, resources, and timing. Visualize potential challenges and prepare responses. The more thorough the planning, the more confident and decisive your execution will be. Even complex, dynamic situations become manageable when each move is aligned with the end goal. Strategically, planning to the end establishes authority and predictability in your own favor. Others are forced to react to your prepared strategies rather than dictate terms. It also enables flexibility. When unexpected events occur, preconsidered contingencies allow you to adjust without losing control. Leaders and influencers who act with foresight maintain momentum while others struggle to respond. Psychologically, a well-laid plan inspires confidence in allies and fear in rivals. People recognize competence and preparation, which attracts cooperation, loyalty, and deference. Planning reduces mistakes, conserves resources, and strengthens influence by making outcomes appear inevitable. Mastery of this law ensures that every action is purposeful, coordinated, and oriented towards success. Impulse and improvisation may produce temporary gains, but only detailed foresight secures lasting power. Those who control the endgame control reality. 30. Make your accomplishments seem effortless. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene teaches that true power lies in the perception of ease and mastery. When your successes appear natural and unstrained, others are impressed, intimidated, and inspired. Effortless competence creates an aura of superiority, masking the preparation, skill, and hard work that underlie achievements. Human psychology is drawn to the extraordinary that appears ordinary. When people witness talent executed with grace, they assume innate ability or higher capability. Conversely, visible struggle can invite skepticism, diminish authority, or encourage competition. By concealing effort and presenting results seamlessly, you control perception, enhance reputation, and solidify influence. Execution requires meticulous preparation, practice, and attention to detail. Behind every act of effortless mastery lies careful planning, rehearsal, and mastery of fundamentals. Your goal is to remove visible traces of struggle, failure, or uncertainty. Smooth delivery, calm demeanor, and confident presentation amplify the perception of innate talent. Strategically, appearing effortless has multiple advantages. It inspires confidence in allies, deters rivals, and attracts opportunities. People are drawn to those who make difficult tasks look simple, as they seem competent, innovative, and powerful. Rivals may hesitate or underestimate your capabilities, while subordinates and partners are more likely to trust and defer to you. This law also emphasizes the subtle art of presentation. Even ordinary achievements can be elevated through timing, framing, and style. Mastery over perception is as important as mastery over action. By cultivating an image of ease, you amplify impact while reducing resistance or criticism. Mastery of this principle requires discipline, patience, and self-awareness. Hard work is essential, but visible struggle must be minimized. Effortless execution creates authority, inspires admiration, and establishes psychological dominance. 31. Control the options. Get others to play with the cards you deal. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene emphasizes the power of framing and limiting choices to your advantage. People feel empowered when presented with options, but if those options are structured by you, their decisions inevitably serve your strategic goals. By controlling the menu of possibilities, you shape behavior, influence outcomes, and maintain authority without appearing coercive. Human psychology is heavily influenced by perception of choice. People prefer autonomy, yet they often fail to see the constraints around the options offered. When choices are subtly guided, individuals believe they are acting freely, but in reality, they follow the path you designed. Strategic structuring of options allows you to achieve objectives while giving others the illusion of control. Execution involves designing alternatives that all serve your desired outcome. Present multiple paths, each aligned with your strategy, and avoid offering options that could undermine your position. Framing matters. How choices are described, sequenced, and contextualized guides decision-making. Subtle cues, language, and timing reinforce the direction of influence. Strategically, this principle transforms negotiation, leadership, and persuasion. Competitors and allies alike can be nudged into decisions that benefit you. By setting the boundaries and controlling the perception of freedom, you avoid direct confrontation while ensuring results align with your goals. People are more cooperative when they believe they are exercising choice, even if it is predetermined. This law also protects your position. When others feel they are responsible for decisions within the options you provide, they are more invested and less likely to resist or sabotage. It creates accountability, psychological ownership, and compliance, all under your subtle direction. Mastery of this law requires foresight, subtlety, and understanding of human motivation. By controlling options, you guide outcomes, maintain initiative, and exercise influence with minimal resistance. Power is strengthened when people act voluntarily within the framework you establish. 32. Play to people's fantasies. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene teaches that reality often disappoints, but people are motivated by what they hope for, imagine, or desire. By appealing to fantasies, dreams, or illusions, you tap into emotional levers that rational arguments cannot reach. Influencing perception through aspiration and imagination allows you to inspire loyalty, attract support, and manipulate behavior more effectively than confrontation or logic alone. Human psychology is strongly driven by hope and desire. People prefer idealized visions over harsh realities. When a leader, influencer, or strategist presents a compelling fantasy, it activates emotions, motivates action, and binds followers emotionally. These mental images often guide decisions more powerfully than facts or evidence, making the manipulation of perception an essential tool for influence. Execution involves identifying the desires, hopes, or illusions of your audience. Craft messages, opportunities, or proposals that resonate with these aspirations. Use storytelling, imagery, and symbolism to make the fantasy vivid and tangible. The goal is not to deceive maliciously but to align perception with strategic objectives, creating motivation and compliance that serves your interests. Strategically, this principle is effective because it reduces resistance. People are more willing to act, invest, or follow when they believe in a desired outcome, even if it is aspirational. Competitors who rely solely on logic or reality often fail to inspire action. By addressing the emotional and imaginative dimensions of human behavior, you generate devotion, enthusiasm, and influence that outstrips rational persuasion. This law also allows for flexibility in negotiation and leadership. Appealing to fantasies can shape expectations, encourage alignment with your vision, and neutralize dissent. It leverages the innate human need for hope and meaning, making others more cooperative and invested. Mastery of this law requires empathy, observation, and creativity. Understand what people long for, craft experiences that resonate emotionally, and guide them subtly toward your goals. Influence through imagination multiplies power, converts desire into action, and strengthens your authority. 33. Discover each man's thumbscrew. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene emphasizes the importance of identifying the weaknesses, desires, fears, and insecurities that drive people. Everyone has a thumbscrew, a point of leverage that can be used to influence, persuade, or control behavior. Understanding these points allows you to navigate relationships strategically, anticipate reactions, and gain advantage without direct confrontation. Human behavior is driven by needs, vulnerabilities, and insecurities. While people often present a composed exterior, their actions are influenced by hidden motivators. Those who recognize these hidden pressures can influence decisions, create compliance, and prevent resistance. Knowledge of personal drivers transforms social, professional, and political interactions into calculated opportunities. Execution involves careful observation, listening, and empathy. Study behavior, emotional responses, and patterns to uncover what matters most to individuals. What inspires loyalty, fear, ambition, or compliance? By understanding these levers, you can craft interactions, requests, or strategies that subtly align with their motivations, increasing the likelihood of favorable outcomes. Strategically, this principle allows you to neutralize opposition and foster influence. Once a person's thumbscrew is known, you can anticipate obstacles, prevent sabotage, and shape decisions to align with your objectives. It also enhances negotiation. Framing offers in terms of their motivators ensures engagement and minimizes resistance. Ethically, this law requires discretion. Knowledge of weaknesses should be used to influence, persuade, or guide, not to abuse. Misapplication risks resentment, mistrust, or long-term damage to relationships. Skillful application balances leverage with subtlety, maintaining respect and minimizing backlash. Mastery of this law ensures that your interactions are calculated, informed, and effective. By uncovering hidden motivators, you control perception, influence behavior, and create opportunities for strategic advantage. 34. Be royal in your own fashion. Act like a king to be treated like one. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene teaches that self-perception and presentation strongly influence how others perceive and treat you. People instinctively respond to confidence, poise, and dignity. By projecting authority, composure, and value, you command respect, discourage disrespect, and attract opportunities. Human psychology equates appearance with competence. Those who carry themselves with confidence and decisiveness are assumed to possess skill, intelligence, and control. Conversely, uncertainty, meekness, or insecurity invites condescension, challenge, or marginalization. Acting royally establishes a perception of power before any action is taken, creating psychological leverage in social, professional, and personal interactions. Execution involves cultivating presence, behavior, and self-assuredness. Develop posture, speech, and demeanor that convey confidence and authority. Dress, language, and composure should reinforce perception of capability. Avoid self-deprecation or over-explanation. Subtle gestures, calm decision-making, and measured responses enhance the impression of control. Perception management is as important as actual ability. Strategically, this law positions you as a figure of influence. People defer, listen, and comply more readily with those who project authority, even in unfamiliar contexts. This perception creates leverage. Others act in alignment with your status, granting opportunities and respect that might otherwise be withheld. Authority becomes self-reinforcing because it shapes the behavior of others. Psychologically, confidence and self-worth affect outcomes. Acting with dignity reduces challenges, elevates influence, and attracts allies. It also increases your own decisiveness, resilience, and ability to navigate complex situations. The aura of authority can intimidate potential rivals while inspiring cooperation. Mastery of this law requires consistency, awareness, and deliberate self-presentation. Acting royally is not arrogance but controlled projection of value and competence. When done correctly, others will treat you with respect, loyalty, and deference, amplifying your power and influence. 35. Master the art of timing. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene emphasizes that power is not only about action but about knowing when to act. Poor timing can nullify brilliance, while perfect timing can amplify even modest actions into monumental results. By observing rhythms, patterns, and human behavior, you can choose the optimal moment to act, speak, or negotiate, ensuring maximum impact and minimal resistance. Human behavior is cyclical and situational. Emotions, priorities, and attention fluctuate, creating windows of opportunity that must be recognized and exploited. Acting too early may provoke unnecessary resistance. Acting too late may let opportunities slip away. Timing transforms strategy into effectiveness by aligning action with context and readiness. Execution involves patience, observation, and anticipation. Study patterns in people, organizations, and events. Learn to recognize signs of readiness, tension, or vulnerability. Deliberate restraint demonstrates control, while calculated action conveys decisiveness. By mastering timing, you create the illusion of effortless authority, appearing always in sync with circumstances, while your opponents are caught off guard. Strategically, timing multiplies influence. In negotiation, choosing when to present proposals or concessions can turn the tide. In leadership, knowing when to assert authority or yield prevents conflict and strengthens loyalty. Even personal relationships benefit from well-timed gestures, words, and decisions, allowing influence to flow naturally rather than through force. Psychologically, those who master timing exude calm, foresight, and competence. They instill confidence in allies and caution in rivals. They also avoid mistakes born of impatience, ensuring actions are calculated and results optimized. Timing turns foresight into power, patience into leverage, and anticipation into dominance. Mastery of this law requires awareness, self-discipline, and an understanding of human nature. The most effective people often achieve more by waiting for the right moment than by acting hastily. Power favors those who act with precision, control, and impeccable timing. 36. Disdain things you cannot have, ignoring them is the best revenge. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene emphasizes the psychological advantage of detachment. When others attempt to provoke envy, desire, or competition over what you cannot obtain, the most powerful response is to remain indifferent. By refusing to react, you deny your opponent's leverage, protect your energy, and project control. Human nature often fixates on scarcity or unattainable objects, which creates emotional vulnerability. Obsessing over what you cannot have makes you reactive, lowers your perceived status, and signals desperation. Ignoring such things communicates that you operate above petty desires, creating an aura of self-sufficiency and authority. Indifference becomes a form of silent power. Execution involves mental discipline and strategic framing. Recognize what is beyond your control or unavailable, then consciously redirect focus to opportunities and resources you can influence. Avoid public displays of frustration or longing. Treat obstacles or unavailable goals with calm neutrality, demonstrating that their absence does not affect your composure, priorities, or success. Strategically, disdain removes emotional manipulation from opponents. Enemies, rivals, or competitors cannot provoke you when they perceive indifference. Others may attempt to bait you, but your composure maintains authority and limits risk. Additionally, people respect those who are unattached to trivial desires, perceiving them as confident, rational, and in command. Psychologically, this law fosters resilience, clarity, and focus. By refusing to be influenced by unachievable goals or provocations, you conserve energy for meaningful action. Detachment projects strength, attracts respect, and increases control over circumstances. It transforms potential frustration into leverage and perception into advantage. Mastery of this principle requires discipline, patience, and awareness of human desires. Ignoring what you cannot have is not passivity, it is a calculated strategy that strengthens position, protects reputation, and elevates influence. 37. Create compelling spectacles. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene emphasizes the use of dramatic presentation and visual impact to command attention, inspire awe, and reinforce authority. People are drawn to spectacle. It captivates the mind, shapes perception, and creates an emotional experience that ordinary communication cannot achieve. Power often flows to those who master the art of impression. Human psychology responds to drama and grandeur. Spectacles bypass rational skepticism by appealing to emotion, imagination, and instinct. A well-crafted display can establish credibility, intimidate rivals, and magnify influence. When people are mesmerized by a performance, they focus less on flaws, more on the narrative, and are more receptive to guidance, loyalty, or persuasion. Execution involves deliberate design, attention to detail, and timing. The spectacle must align with your image, objectives, and audience expectations. It can be visual, verbal, or situational, a dramatic entrance, an elegant gesture, a powerful speech, or a display of competence. Authenticity is key. The audience must perceive the spectacle as genuine and authoritative rather than contrived or superficial. Strategically, spectacles amplify power beyond the immediate act. They create memorable experiences that shape perception long after the event concludes. They attract followers, inspire devotion, and reinforce your position without requiring force or argument. Rivals are forced to respond on your terms, while allies and observers are influenced emotionally and psychologically. Psychologically, creating spectacles leverages attention, admiration, and social signaling. People are more likely to follow, trust, and support those who project grandeur and confidence. Authority becomes associated with presence, impact, and charisma rather than mere position or title. Spectacle transforms perception into a tool of influence and control. Mastery of this law requires creativity, precision, and understanding of audience psychology. Those who command attention through carefully orchestrated experiences often gain disproportionate influence and respect, making spectacle a powerful multiplier of authority. 38. Think as you like but behave like others. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene emphasizes the importance of discretion and social conformity in maintaining power. While independent thought fuels innovation and strategy, openly expressing unconventional ideas can provoke envy, suspicion, or hostility. By concealing your true opinions and adapting outward behavior to social norms, you protect yourself while retaining the freedom to think and act strategically. Human behavior punishes deviation from norms. Individuals who openly challenge convention often attract resistance, jealousy, or sabotage. Observers judge outward behavior more than private thought, meaning your influence and safety depend on appearances as much as on competence. Blending in while privately cultivating superior insight allows you to operate undetected, gather information, and position yourself advantageously. Execution involves self-awareness, observation, and strategic restraint. Study social norms, expectations, and the behaviors of those in power. Conform outwardly to accepted practices while maintaining independent thought privately. Express ideas tactfully, only revealing them when it serves a purpose or enhances your influence. By managing perception, you avoid unnecessary conflict and maintain autonomy. Strategically, this principle allows you to maneuver safely in competitive environments. By behaving like others, you gain access, build alliances, and reduce threats. By thinking independently, you retain the ability to innovate, anticipate moves, and capitalize on opportunities. This duality maximizes influence while minimizing exposure. Psychologically, this law fosters subtlety, adaptability, and patience. Others underestimate your capabilities, believing you are conventional or compliant, while in reality, you are gathering insight and preparing decisive action. The combination of hidden intelligence and social tact ensures power without confrontation. Mastery of this law requires observation, discipline, and timing. Think freely, but present yourself strategically to the world. Those who succeed in blending private insight with public conformity command influence while avoiding unnecessary opposition. 39. Stir up waters to catch fish. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene emphasizes the power of creating controlled chaos to exploit opportunities. When situations are calm, people act rationally and predictably. By introducing disruption, conflict, confusion, or provocation, you force reactions that reveal weaknesses, create openings, and allow you to manipulate outcomes to your advantage. Human nature responds strongly to emotion. Anger, fear, jealousy, and greed override reason, making people vulnerable to misjudgment. When you strategically stir emotions, others act impulsively, often exposing themselves or making errors that you can exploit. Chaos magnifies influence for those prepared to navigate it, while unprepared rivals struggle to regain control. Execution involves subtlety and timing. Do not create unnecessary destruction or risk. Instead, introduce controlled tension that provokes predictable responses. Small actions, provocative words, challenges, or gestures can disrupt equilibrium just enough to reveal hidden motivations or vulnerabilities. Observe reactions carefully and act decisively when opportunity arises. Strategically, stirring the waters amplifies power by transforming uncertainty into leverage. Rivals become defensive, allies show loyalty, and the landscape shifts in ways that favor your objectives. By remaining calm amidst turbulence, you appear authoritative, competent, and in control, further enhancing perception of power. Psychologically, this law relies on perception and emotional manipulation. People underestimate those who calmly exploit disorder, assuming they are victims rather than orchestrators. The ability to provoke, observe, and capitalize on reactions creates strategic advantage and minimizes risk. Mastery of this principle requires patience, observation, and emotional intelligence. By selectively stirring waters, you control the pace and direction of events, turning instability into a tool of influence and dominance. 40. Despise the free lunch. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene teaches that nothing of real value comes without cost. Accepting free favors, gifts, or handouts often creates hidden obligations, indebtedness, or leverage that others can exploit. To preserve autonomy and maintain power, cultivate self-reliance, pay your own way, and avoid appearing beholden to anyone. Independence strengthens influence and ensures freedom of action. Human nature often exploits generosity. Those who accept favors are vulnerable to subtle control, manipulation, or expectation. Even seemingly minor debts can be invoked strategically against you, limiting your options or forcing compliance. Power flows most freely when you are self-sufficient and able to act without constraint. Execution involves deliberate self-sufficiency and discernment. Avoid accepting gifts, favors, or assistance that carry implicit obligations. When support is unavoidable, negotiate terms, maintain awareness of potential leverage, and preserve autonomy. Demonstrating independence communicates strength, confidence, and strategic awareness. Strategically, despising the free lunch enhances negotiation, perception, and authority. People respect those who do not rely on charity or convenience, viewing them as competent, disciplined, and capable. This principle also reduces vulnerability. By minimizing dependence, you limit avenues for manipulation or exploitation. Psychologically, this law reinforces control over your own resources, decisions, and reputation. Independence allows you to act decisively, align with your priorities, and maintain credibility. It signals competence and self-reliance, which inspires respect and reduces interference. Mastery of this principle requires vigilance, discipline, and strategic awareness. Power thrives when you avoid hidden debts and maintain autonomy. Rejecting what appears free preserves freedom, strengthens influence, and positions you to act on your own terms. 41. Avoid stepping into a great man's shoes. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene teaches that following a powerful predecessor directly is risky because comparisons are inevitable. When you inherit a position or role after someone highly accomplished, expectations are magnified, scrutiny is intensified, and your actions are measured against their legacy. To maintain authority, carve your own path, establish a unique identity, and avoid direct imitation. Human psychology is prone to comparison. People naturally measure successors against predecessors, often idealizing the former. Attempts to replicate success can lead to criticism, resentment, or diminished influence. By creating your own approach and style, you reduce unfavorable comparisons and establish independent authority. Execution involves analysis, innovation, and strategic positioning. Study the achievements of predecessors to learn what worked, then identify opportunities to differentiate yourself. Introduce new methods, priorities, or visions that highlight your individuality. Position yourself as an evolution, not a copy, ensuring recognition for originality and competence. Strategically, this law safeguards reputation and influence. By avoiding direct imitation, you prevent unnecessary rivalry, jealousy, or expectation. Establishing distinct identity allows you to set your own agenda, cultivate loyal followers, and maneuver independently of past shadows. It transforms inheritance into opportunity rather than burden. Psychologically, originality inspires respect, trust, and attention. People are drawn to leaders who demonstrate innovation, vision, and confidence rather than those who merely replicate others. Unique action signals capability, decisiveness, and control, strengthening authority. Mastery of this principle requires awareness, creativity, and courage. To step confidently into leadership or influence, forge a path that reflects your strengths and vision. Avoid the trap of comparison, instead turn transition into empowerment, making your leadership memorable and respected. 42. Strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene emphasizes targeting the source of opposition or unrest to neutralize threats efficiently. Often, discontent, rebellion, or resistance is organized around a central figure whose influence inspires or directs others. By removing or neutralizing this figure, the collective loses coordination, morale, and effectiveness, allowing you to consolidate power and control the situation with minimal direct conflict. Human psychology relies on leadership and authority figures to organize thought and action. Followers often act in accordance with the beliefs, instructions, or influence of a central figure. When that figure is removed or discredited, the group becomes fragmented, directionless, and easier to manage or manipulate. Addressing the root of resistance is more effective than attempting to confront every individual within a group. Execution involves careful observation and identification of key influencers. Determine who drives decisions, inspires loyalty, or organizes opposition. Once identified, take decisive action, whether through persuasion, neutralization, or strategic pressure, to diminish their influence. Timing and subtlety are essential. Overt aggression can create backlash, while discreet maneuvering can achieve compliance with minimal resistance. Strategically, this principle consolidates power by addressing the source rather than the symptoms. By eliminating or neutralizing the central influence, you reduce overall opposition and prevent organized resistance. Allies and observers recognize authority and are more likely to align with your position once the threat is removed. Psychologically, this law demonstrates foresight, strategy, and decisiveness. People respect leaders who act decisively to maintain order and control. It also discourages potential challengers by signaling that threats to your authority will be addressed at their source, deterring future opposition. Mastery of this law requires observation, patience, and strategic execution. Addressing the root of disruption ensures control, consolidates influence, and minimizes wasted effort. Power is reinforced when the source of resistance is neutralized, leaving followers disoriented and more amenable to your direction. If this enhanced your understanding of strategic neutralization and influence, subscribe to the channel for more insights on power, psychology, strategy, and timeless methods to maintain control and authority effectively. 43. Work on the hearts and minds of others. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene emphasizes that influence is more enduring and effective when it appeals to emotion rather than relying solely on force or authority. People are motivated by feelings, fear, desire, loyalty, admiration, more than by logic or obligation. By shaping perceptions, inspiring trust, and cultivating emotional connection, you secure cooperation, loyalty, and influence that is resilient and self-reinforcing. Human psychology is deeply emotional. Decisions, actions, and allegiances are guided by perception and sentiment. Leaders or influencers who appeal to both rational understanding and emotional resonance gain deeper commitment. When hearts and minds are aligned, compliance becomes voluntary, resistance diminishes, and influence becomes self-sustaining. Execution requires empathy, observation, and subtle persuasion. Understand what motivates, inspires, or frightens individuals and groups. Use language, actions, and gestures that resonate with those emotions. Praise, recognition, shared vision, and reassurance strengthen connection, while tactful challenge or controlled provocation can motivate action when necessary. Balance is essential. Emotional manipulation without integrity may backfire, but thoughtful engagement fosters trust and loyalty. Strategically, influencing hearts and minds multiplies your power. Allies act proactively in support, competitors hesitate to oppose, and observers are drawn to align with you. By establishing emotional resonance, you create networks of influence that extend beyond immediate control, fostering cooperation even in your absence. Psychologically, this law enhances perception, reputation, and authority. People naturally defer to those who understand, inspire, and connect with them emotionally. Influence becomes intuitive, loyalty becomes voluntary, and your authority appears legitimate and compelling. Mastery of this law requires emotional intelligence, patience, and strategic insight. Power anchored in the hearts and minds of others is durable, persuasive, and far-reaching, allowing you to maintain influence without constant coercion. 44. Disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene emphasizes the strategic use of reflection to unsettle, manipulate, and control others. By subtly mimicking the behavior, attitudes, or emotions of your target, you create psychological resonance that can lull them into comfort, then strategically provoke frustration or confusion. The mirror effect leverages human social instincts to influence perception and behavior without overt force. Human psychology is highly responsive to imitation. People naturally respond to those who reflect their own behavior, tone, and attitudes. Mirroring builds rapport, trust, and alignment. However, when used intentionally, subtle exaggeration or timing can also highlight flaws, contradictions, or vulnerabilities, creating emotional imbalance that you can exploit strategically. Execution involves careful observation, precision, and restraint. Identify key patterns in speech, gesture, or behavior, then replicate them to build rapport or manipulate perception. Timing is critical. Exaggerate, delay, or subtly distort mirrored behavior at the right moment to provoke, confuse, or disarm your target. The goal is psychological leverage, not mockery. Maintain control while influencing reactions. Strategically, this law neutralizes threats and enhances influence. Mirroring fosters trust initially, allowing you to gain insight into intentions and vulnerabilities. Once leverage is established, controlled provocation through the mirror effect can manipulate decisions, incite overreaction, or distract rivals. It is especially effective in negotiation, conflict, and social maneuvering. Psychologically, the mirror effect exploits instinctive human responses. People underestimate mirrored influence, assuming interactions are natural and reciprocal. This subtle manipulation enhances perception of competence, control, and strategic awareness while minimizing resistance. Mastery of this law requires observation, patience, and subtlety. By reflecting behavior intelligently, you can disarm allies, unsettle rivals, and shape outcomes in your favor, turning perception into a tool of influence and dominance. 45. Preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene emphasizes the delicate balance between innovation and stability. People naturally resist sudden, radical change because it threatens security, routines, and comfort. To maintain influence, introduce change gradually, frame it as beneficial, and manage perception so that progress appears natural rather than imposed. Human psychology favors familiarity and predictability. Sudden reforms, even with good intentions, provoke fear, resentment, or sabotage. Those in authority must understand that change requires careful framing and pacing. Gradual adaptation minimizes resistance while maximizing acceptance, ensuring that you maintain control over outcomes and perceptions. Execution involves strategic planning, communication, and timing. Identify necessary changes, then introduce them incrementally with clear explanations and visible benefits. Highlight continuity with tradition where possible to avoid alarming stakeholders. Encourage participation and alignment so that others perceive reform as cooperative rather than coerced. Strategically, this law ensures sustainable influence. By controlling the pace of change, you avoid backlash and maintain credibility. Gradual reform allows you to consolidate power, test reactions, and adjust strategy without destabilizing your position. People respect leaders who appear considerate and measured, reinforcing authority while achieving objectives. Psychologically, this law manages fear, uncertainty, and resistance. It positions you as a visionary yet prudent leader, inspiring trust while guiding transformation. Abrupt change risks alienation, whereas carefully staged progress consolidates support and strengthens influence. Mastery of this law requires foresight, patience, and social intelligence. Change is most effective when it is gradual, calculated, and framed to appeal to collective interests, allowing you to reshape circumstances while maintaining authority. 46. Never appear too perfect. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene teaches that perfection provokes envy, resentment, and opposition. Human nature is prone to comparison and insecurity. Those who appear flawless become targets for subtle sabotage, criticism, or hostility. To maintain influence, balance competence with humility, vulnerability, or small, calculated imperfections that make you relatable while preserving authority. Psychologically, people envy those who seem untouchable. Excessive displays of skill, wealth, or intelligence can alienate allies and provoke rivals. By showing selective flaws or humanizing traits, you reduce hostility, foster rapport, and diffuse envy. The perception of approachability enhances loyalty and cooperation without diminishing perceived power. Execution involves strategic self-presentation. Highlight strengths but occasionally acknowledge limitations, mistakes, or challenges. Use humility or subtle humor to create relatability, ensuring that your authority is not overshadowed by resentment. Vulnerability must be controlled, reveal enough to humanize, but never enough to undermine competence or influence. Strategically, this law prevents isolation and covert opposition. By tempering perfection with calculated imperfection, you encourage support, minimize envy-driven attacks, and strengthen alliances. Rivals are less likely to challenge someone who is impressive yet approachable, as they perceive both competence and social acceptability. Psychologically, this law balances admiration with trust. Allies feel safe and connected. Observers perceive authority without hostility. Strategic imperfection fosters loyalty, reduces covert opposition, and allows influence to grow organically. Mastery of this law requires awareness, subtlety, and self-discipline. By managing perception, you maintain authority while avoiding unnecessary envy, making influence sustainable and resilient. 47. Do not go past the mark you aimed for. In victory, learn when to stop. This principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene emphasizes restraint and the strategic management of success. Overreaching in triumph can create unnecessary enemies, provoke envy, or trigger retaliation. True power lies not only in achieving objectives but in knowing the precise moment to consolidate gains and avoid overextension. Human psychology reacts strongly to perceived threats. Overzealous pursuit of additional success after achieving your goal often alarms allies and intimidates opponents in ways that provoke opposition. Maintaining moderation signals wisdom, control, and strategic foresight, reducing the risk of backlash and ensuring long-term influence. Execution requires clear objectives, discipline, and situational awareness. Define the limits of success and the conditions under which it is safe to stop. Resist temptation to expand influence or wealth beyond calculated boundaries. Observe reactions of allies, rivals, and observers to gauge perception and avoid unintended consequences. Recognize that perceived moderation often enhances respect more than relentless ambition. Strategically, restraint preserves power by preventing unnecessary conflict. Overreach can undo victories and weaken positions. By stopping at the appropriate moment, you solidify authority, protect resources, and maintain influence. This approach encourages sustainable growth and positions you as a measured, strategic leader rather than a reckless aggressor. Psychologically, this law communicates control, wisdom, and foresight. Allies trust leaders who balance ambition with prudence, while rivals hesitate to provoke someone who masters both action and restraint. Self-discipline amplifies credibility and reduces vulnerability. Mastery of this principle requires patience, awareness, and strategic judgment. Knowing when to stop ensures victories endure, influence is preserved, and power remains unchallenged. 48. Assume formlessness. This final principle from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene teaches that rigidity is dangerous in a world of constant change. Those who cling to fixed patterns, predictable behaviors, or rigid structures are vulnerable to opponents who can anticipate and exploit them. By remaining adaptable, fluid, and unpredictable, you preserve freedom of action, confuse adversaries, and maintain control over circumstances. Human psychology relies on patterns. People are comfortable predicting behavior and resisting change. When you defy expectation and shift strategies or appearances, you destabilize opponents, forcing them into reactive positions. Flexibility allows you to respond to evolving situations, capitalize on opportunities, and avoid traps. Execution requires mental agility, observation, and strategic experimentation. Avoid over-identification with rigid routines, roles, or strategies. Embrace change, disguise intentions, and adjust actions based on context. Sometimes subtle adaptation is sufficient, other times, radical reinvention is necessary. The key is to remain elusive while preserving core objectives. Strategically, formlessness prevents opponents from finding leverage. Predictable leaders are attacked, exploited, or outmaneuvered. Those who adapt fluidly control the pace of events, dictate terms, and remain steps ahead of rivals. Flexibility also encourages creativity, innovation, and resilience in complex environments. Psychologically, this law instills respect, fear, and uncertainty in others. Allies value your adaptability and ability to navigate challenges, while competitors struggle to anticipate or counter your moves. Formlessness ensures that no one can pin you down, weakening resistance and enhancing influence. Mastery of this law requires awareness, adaptability, and willingness to embrace uncertainty. By remaining formless, you transform change into opportunity, unpredictability into leverage, and adaptability into enduring power. If this clarified the ultimate strategic advantage of adaptability and unpredictability, subscribe to the channel for more insights on power, psychology, strategy, and timeless methods to remain influential, resilient, and in control in any situation.